In Saudi Arabia today, the president will formally meet with the new Saudi king, King Salman. He will pay his respects to their family after the death of King Abdullah. Very large U.S. delegation is there today to do just that. And I am joined this morning by Kentucky Republican Senator Rand Paul, who is on both the Foreign Relations and Homeland Security committees, both very important posts given the state of the world today. Senator, good morning. Good to have you with us today.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
So I'm curious about your thoughts about this meeting with King Salman and what you think in terms of what the president needs to express to him, given the incredible volatile situation in Yemen and in so many parts of the Middle East, given the ISIS factor.
You know, I hope he says to Saudi Arabia that we'd like them to help us and work with us instead of against us. I think a lot of the arms that Saudi Arabia and Qatar have poured into the Syrian war, the Syrian civil war, have actually been hurting us. They've actually wound up in the hands of ISIS. So I hope the message to them is they need to be working against radical Islam. They need to quit funding radical Islamic schools in our country and around the world. And they need to actually send ground troops in to help us fight ISIS.
Well, obviously, it's such a complicated situation because I read this morning that a number of these groups, these radical Islamist groups, were rejoicing over the death of King Abdullah in Saudi Arabia. But we also know that Saudi Arabia was not happy with our stand in Syria. They obviously wanted to see us follow through on the belief that Assad must go. So there's some tension in this relationship. How would you repair it?
Well, I think that Saudi Arabia needs to realize that most of the radical Islamists in the war there, the ISIS, are Sunnis, and we need to have people from the civilized world of Sunni Islam need to step up, and that means Saudi Arabia. I think Saudi Arabia, in 2013, 600 million tons of weapons were poured into the Syrian civil war. And a lot of those were Saudi weapons, and a lot of those wound up in the hands of ISIS. We're now back there fighting against weapons that some of them were ours, but some of them were our allies. So Saudi Arabia needs to step up and be on our side and not be provoking the situation.
Some tough conversations need to be had. Interesting. All right, let's turn our attention back here at home to some new polls that show how the GOP race is shaping up. It seems that the summit in Iowa has kicked this thing into high gear and reality. Let's take a look at how the GOP stacks up, those who are out there, and you're on that list as well, in terms of who may run for the Republican nomination. Undecided is the big winner. Somebody named Undecided got 45% of the vote. What does that tell you?
It tells you that people are just getting done with 2014 and haven't really got engaged in 2016 yet. And some of that, I think, is justified. And I've been saying all along, you know, I'm here in the Senate, want to try to do something, and I'm working very hard in the first 3 or 4 months to get something passed to bring American profit and jobs home. And so, you know, 2016 takes a little bit of a back seat to our day job of trying to get something done right now.
How do you see this race playing out as you look forward? A lot of folks are in a big way. They've formed their leadership pacts. Chris Christie just did that. You see yourself on that list at about 2%. What's your strategy if you do decide to run?
You know, I think that the more the merrier, as far as I'm concerned. I think we have place in the party for moderates like Christie and Bush and Romney, and then there'll also be conservatives. And hopefully, at least from a conservative point of view, we hope the moderates will divide up the moderate vote and maybe allow a conservative to be the nominee. It's been quite a while since we've really had the conservative come forward as the nominee.
What's your timetable as you watch these PACs form? When do you expect to make an affirmative decision?
You know, we're still doing a lot of traveling this spring, presenting a message that we think is unique, trying to let Republicans know that the same old, we don't think will win again. I think some of the libertarian ideas and issues that I put forward, as well as being a conservative, the libertarian issues, give a little bit of an edge that brings in young people, working class, people who are concerned with privacy, minorities who are concerned with minority rights and individual rights. So I think there are a lot of things that are different. I think we're going to need something different. The question to me is whether or not that message will resonate. If I get involved, I wouldn't want to get involved just to do it. I would only get involved if we think we really have a chance to win.
Interesting. What about the FAIR Act? You mentioned privacy there, and I know that's something you're working on in the Senate.
Yeah, one of the things that's really affecting poor people, and you know, we've had a lot of protests across the country. They're not all just about specific instances. They're about unhappiness with government in general. Right now, the rule stands that the government can take your property and then you have to prove that you're innocent. So right now under civil forfeiture, you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent. But think of a poor person who has some money, they're not in a bank and they've saved their money and they maybe have $1,000. The government takes it. It costs more than that to get an attorney to try to prove that you're innocent. That shouldn't be the American way. So I want to end that. I want to say, look, the government has to charge you and convict you of the crime before they get to keep your stuff. If they don't charge you or convict you, they should have to give you your stuff back. This involves hotels, it involves grocery stores, but it also involves a lot of poor people in our big city who are unhappy with government because they have their stuff taken without due process.
It's an interesting topic, and it seems like a reasonable take on it. Senator, thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
We are starting to see some amazing pictures.